Hello, everyone. I am Tyler Caldwell, and with me is a very close friend of mine, Jonathan Fiant of J London Cigars, Mr. London himself. And we're going to learn a little bit about the man behind the cigar today.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, my
Yes,
friend.
sir. So let's just get right into it, man.
Yeah.
What, let's tell the folks here what J London is. Like, where does J London come from? What's the background? And
Man, J London comes about from just my years in the industry, my of treasure hunting, of my collecting, my desire to just have something unique and different. And it's just a culmination of that, plus my, for example, the treasure hunting. I was going to London twice a year for rare cigar auctions.
Okay.
And I had a shop inside of an exotic car club. And so I fell in love with the city of London, the culture, the cigar community over there, right? You combine that and the history, and then you take I used to be a sports card collector, so I always just like to find something unique or different. And then whatever I do, if I'm going to put my name on it, I want it to be something special. I want it something I have to be proud of. I have to, it's my mark, right?
Yeah.
It represents me.
Yeah.
And so that's really, it's a culmination of all that together.
Interesting. So when you say treasure hunting, do you mean like you went to hunt rare cigars, or were there like other things that you were
Rare cigars were
rare
liquors.
cigars? Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool, man.
you'd like to have things or try things that maybe other people haven't, or bring it to them, share it
Sure.
through special events.
Sure.
It's fun to see what you can find out there.
So I have to know, like, how many like older, like 70s, 80s, like Davidoff Cubans did you get your hands on?
I did get my hands on certainly a few boxes of
Okay.
Davidoff Cubans, but I had cigars as far back as 1901.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I dealt in historical level cigars in the year Teddy Roosevelt became president of the United States.
Yeah.
So, and obviously he was a cigar smoker, Rough Riders. So there's all that connection. Like he was chasing history almost. I mean, I had cigars
cool.
from Nazi Germany with the Third Reich tax stamp on them, right? Obviously a horrible time in the world, but it's still part of a history, of mankind's history. And so, having those historical level cigars, stuff like that. So
Okay.
it was never boring. And every time that you smoked something, you were literally smoking a piece of history.
Yeah.
And so that was just one of my inspirations.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. So that's kind of, now knowing that, which is interesting because I didn't know that. So where in between there and creating the cigar brand of J London, like what got you into that idea of like, I want to start a cigar company?
I didn't. So I had my own shop inside the Exotic Car Club, but before that I'd also run a cigar shop in Houston, Texas, managed it, consulted the industry, did different things. And then I had the opportunity, the owners of a car club approached me, and they were building out this 12,000 square foot social arm.
Okay.
There was 3 bars, restaurant, executive chef.
Was this also in Houston?
Houston as well. Okay. And so they built out a little closet for me, and I stocked it with some of the rarest cigars in the world, got featured in the Cigar Journal because of it, but I wasn't necessarily looking to do my own cigar line. And then people just kept after me because I kept pairing their palates so well. And for years they're like, you need to have your own cigar, you really know cigars. And then finally I was like, if I am going to do it, because I know it takes so much work and sacrifice and traveling and a ridiculous amount of money to really do it right.
Sure.
And if I was going to do it, I needed to work with the right people, people that I already had belief or faith in what they produced. And so George Rodriguez of Rodrigo Cigars happened to come into the private club through Shar, who owns Fuego Cigars in Las Vegas. And they were working together at the time, and I'd heard of Rodrigo Cigars, and so small boutique company.
Yeah.
I knew it was made by William Ventura. And so then I got to know George, great guy. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, George, can I'll pay for you to take me down. And I want all the right introductions to the right family, and I already had a respect for William, and so he connected us, and the rest is history. We're coming up on 10 years here.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy, man. 10 years. So you go down, you meet William. What was there any like what was the experience like creating the first blend? Like, did you already have something in mind, or?
I never had a clearer vision of what I wanted in regards to the cigar than that first blend, which also made it challenging in future blends. I now have some clearer visions of certain things I'm going after, but that one, I wanted something that was elegant, creamy, smooth. I wanted like an old school Davidoff. I wanted something that you could smoke that was almost like already smoking a vintage cigar, an aged cigar, right? That it was that level of smoothness and soft, velvety on the palate. And so that's the Gold Series. And even though I had that vision of what I wanted, it still took 6 months for us to get it right. So the first week when I was down there with him, I just took down a bunch of different cigars, and I wanted to get to know William's palate and him to get to know my palate, so that we could at least, because I'm not, unfortunately not fluent in Spanish, but even if I was, every master blender has a different way in how they process or articulate something or translate like savory or this particular note. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page for communicating, so we were all smoking the same cigars. Had Henderson Ventura, the younger son who has Ed Ventura Cigars, was kind enough to communicate and translate for us, and it all worked out.
Very cool.
So we did that at the end of the first week. So I told William I wanted a double wrapper, which was something that way back in the day Davidoff had done on some of their cigars. And so this would have been a time when William was actually working at Davidoff. And so I knew, I had known a lot, some of the history, and obviously I had great respect for his experience for the old school Davidoffs back in the day. And so I said I want double Ecuador and Connecticut. And so I remember William having this look on his face of like intrigue, like this gringo just asked for a wrapper gray leaf as the binder, like. And then we worked on the fillers, and we had a good blend, but it wasn't it. It was close. Everybody else that was there tasting goes, "This is it. This is it," and I was the only one who said, "No, it's not." And it was close, but it wasn't it. And then went back and forth. I was able to go, I had to fly out, but then 3 months later, come back to the factory, and we go in the wrong direction. The fillers, we went the wrong direction. Finally, third time, after giving more feedback and smoking more together, make sure that we were understanding each other, he made that final tweak, and we were able to come up with the Gold Series. I was like, this is it.
Okay.
And we launched it. It was a $30 cigar then, because you had to get it from me in the private club, and we sold out. It was just for my clients. That was it. So we didn't go nationwide, didn't sell it to anybody else. You just had to know me. And that's how it was for most of the time.
That's very cool, man. Yeah. It's very cool. So you got the Gold Series, which I'm personally a big fan of. The Lonsdale size is it. Yeah, it is up there for like top cigar of the year for me. And I tell everyone about it. Like, if you want, like you said, that creamy, that more vintage Davidoff style to it, like a little bit on that like lighter Cuban-esque style to it, like it's all around perfect.
Okay.
So, and then let's talk about the Telephone Booth series. Like, it's a very interesting project.
Yes.
So like, how does that all come into play?
So I'll back up a little bit. We'll kind of go with how we got there, right? So we had just the Gold Series. That's all I had. And then finally started going nationwide. I left Houston, moved back to Pennsylvania, had a mentor believe in me. He's like, let's take J. London nationwide. And so I had the Gold Series. We started there. We're ramping it up, tripled our business. Things are going great. About to bring on a broker. Factory fire happens. Boom. Lose everything. Now, I had started working on new projects, but I was stuck. Remember how I said had that clarity for the Gold series of what I wanted? I didn't have that for Sun-Grown or Maduro cigar. So in order to get me out of that, quagmire, being stuck, right, with what was in my creative juices, I was like, let's just do something totally different. I'm going to do this 12-part series, all different blends, and that way it just forces me to, get out there and see and just have fun, experiment, different tobaccos. And that's really how the Telephone Booth series came about. Is I just wanted street level artistry series, again, going London based, right, London inspired, something where I can just have fun and learn and play around with all these different tobaccos. And that's exactly what we're doing. And we're getting some really good blends out of a lot of them. And consumer, they're getting to be a part of the journey, right? They're this artistry and seeing how we're evolving. I'm working with the new factory for that project. So the Tejada family in the Dominican Republic is 4 generations of growing and processing, but this is their first cigar factory.
Okay.
So I was the first one to bring cigars from this factory to the U.S. And we started working together a couple of years ago, but I've known the oldest son, Juan, for years and years. He and his wife were also at my wedding in the Dominican. We actually met at Saga one night years ago, smoking cigars. I'm like, oh, he looks like a good person. He's smoking. Let's talk. And we got to become friends. And, it's just with their history, their background, getting to just apply this. We're still massaging things. We're learning together.
Sure.
They really allowed me to have a lot of say input, like when I'm there, okay, let's change this, not just tobaccos, but even like, all right, let's adjust the aging room, let's adjust this, let's move everything, like any process, really cool. Anything I'm going to do, they're open to, and which really creates something unique for the customer, and they can see that journey as the factory's evolving, as I'm evolving with different blends, different sizes, trying to optimize everything and see what makes the most unique, best experience.
One thing I really feel like the folks at home watching this should know, you do have a very special cigar available called the Mr. London.
Yes.
And you've told me the story about it before, but I would love for you to explain that to the folks.
Absolutely. So I was able to meet Eladio Diaz 10 years ago. He was the master blender Davidoff for over a quarter century, as we know, and probably the most well-known master blender in the world, right? So when the Gold Series was finalized, William Ventura and his family wanted to celebrate with me. So I was in Santiago, DR, and we went to a place called El Rancho, which unfortunately is no longer there. It's right by the monument. It was right by the monument. It was steakhouse, cigar bar, and nightclub all together. It was absolutely fantastic.
Interesting.
And so we went there, and it was William's family, and then Eladio's family came to just celebrate with me. And then now, 10 years later, I was able to finally do a project with Eladio. Now that, because obviously while I was at Davidoff, I couldn't, but now that he has his own factory, we were able to release the Mr. London. And that is a character that is going to go on this journey, right? So this one is called the Introduction. So we have the Super Robusto. It comes one size. Next year we'll release a different size of the Mr. London Introduction. That'll also be made, of course, by Eladio, because same blend, just different size. And limited to just 400 boxes, and when they're gone, they're gone.
Okay.
And then I will also work with some other master blenders down the road, and Mr. London's going to kind of go on this journey.
That's really cool.
It's just a fun character. A friend of mine created this. When you take off the top band and you see the character on it, a friend of mine made that for me years ago. He actually started out as just a fan of J. London cigars, and then we got to know each other. Really great guy, talented artist. And he made this for me, and I'm like, you know what? Someday I'm going to honor you. I don't put this on a cigar band. And so that's how the Mr. London character came about. There's 7 different tobaccos in that cigar.
Interesting.
So it's a very unique, delicious medium body,
Yeah.
you know.
A lot of complexity to
Yes,
it, which
there's
is
a lot going on.
that's always a thing that I look for in a cigar. I want to, I want every couple puffs to like just racking my brain thinking like, okay, I tasted this, but now I'm getting this, now I'm getting this, and I definitely get that with the Mr. London. So I'm looking forward to the next release of it.
You and me both.
J London Gold Series telephone booth. What's next on the horizon? Any?
Well, so we're bringing the Ripper has been sold out, but we're bringing in 2 new sizes that have been rolled. They're aging, and later this year we'll have them out in a Toro and then a short fat like Robusto.
And that's Martinez?
That is Martinez in New York. So USA made cigars, $12 to $14 price range.
Sure.
Absolutely delicious. When we launched it a couple years ago at the trade show at PCA, we sold out of it. So that was a fun project because that was actually my next band that we designed or concept after the Gold Series. That actually came out because the telephone booth, we didn't have even time for bands because we had the factory fire. So I just had to, we started with stickers before that. So, because I needed to have something out to stay in business until we could get the Gold Series back up and running. And so, but that dagger, there's so much detail in that dagger band, and the same amount of detail went into the blending of that cigar. And worked with Jesus very closely, and it was a pleasure to work with him. And just a second generation cigar owner, master blender, and his family history is really interesting. And when I do events, I delve into a little bit further about him and his background. So I have that, and then I'm working on some more things with actually Weber. I was just down last week in the Dominican Republic with Weber Ventura, and besides that, us having the gold and working on bringing back the full line, we're also working on some sun-grown Maduro stuff as well.
Okay.
So,
oh man, a Gold Series Maduro, that would that'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting. Cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with it, but obviously I'm putting I put a lot of pressure on myself, I think, especially anything that has, we did so well with the Gold Series that, if I'm going to do a Gold Series Maduro, it's got to be
just as perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get things wrapped up here, I'm kind of interested to know, going back to this collector mentality here, you've obviously collected a lot of cool cigars. What is something that you're like a prized possession kind of cigar, that's the favorite of your whole collection?
Man, it's more for me, I'd say time and place of what they each meant. For example, I have a cigar that was by Jose Sejas, and it was the Mi Dominicana, and that one was because I knew a brother of the leaf. He passed away. I got to speak at his funeral, and his wife had, humidor, and all of his cigar buddies each got to pick one. So
That's really cool.
There's that emotional tie, and then on the so that one I'll never smoke because every time I look at it, I remember this gentleman, right? And just the conversations that I had with him. But then on the flip side, I had original Liga Privada number 9 that Jonathan Drew actually traded me at a PCA. I had some Xena Platinum Crowns in my pocket. He traded me Liga number 9 because when I was running a store, this was before I had my own shop. I actually we were one of the top 50 first accounts to ever open up a Drew estate back in the day. So I got to do that whole thing. Going on the Cuban side, I mean, I've owned, obviously the Cohiba Bejiques are always sought after and known, right? But there's the 1901 cigar. I actually smoked one of those. At that point, it was just too far gone, but it was just still, you're smoking a piece of history. What I have today, I do have a couple of Cuban Davidoffs in there from the 80s that, obviously are just, at this point, a part of Davidoff Florida history. And then There's some older stuff. I keep a few of the cigars from Nazi Germany. There's one from a Brazilian box, like Brazilian tobacco.
Okay.
So that was real unique. We smoked some, sold some,
Yeah.
and kept one lying around. And then there's even a few private Cubans that are like custom made or diplomatic cigars that are in my collection.
Very cool.
So there's that. And then on the J London side, I have a cigar that there was only 500 made for my wedding, and it was nicknamed the Blue Prince.
Okay.
And because of my blue eyes. So my wife was happy with that. And so that came in an individual coffin. And that's a super rare Solomon size.
Okay.
It was only ever released for my wedding.
That's really cool.
So a lot of different stuff, fun things. And I have a few more things in the works then on the J London side down the road to continue with that collecting side, because that's just something I do for me.
Sure.
Right? Just fun and creative.
Yeah. Well, my man John, I really appreciate you coming out
pleasure, my
here,
friend.
doing this with us. Everybody watching this, make sure you check out the J London selection on smokingpipes.com. We're very proud of his cigars. We're very proud to be a partner and carrying the product. Gold Series Lonsdale, my personal favorite. We want to find out what your personal J London favorites are, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, and catch you next time.